Hi, I'm Magda from Interiors Exteriors. This time, I'll take you to a 56 square meter apartment where you'll see the owner's passion and lots of things they've transformed themselves.
Hi, I'm Carolina.
Hi, I'm Lukasz, and we've been living in Łódź for 5 years now.
This is Gamora, with Fado sleeping on the couch beside her. We did most of the things ourselves. Okay, the first renovation was laying tiles and so on, so of course we had a professional for that. But things like painting the walls we did ourselves. But it happens often, because we renovate on average once every 3 months. Furniture likes to change color, walls like to change color. At the beginning, when we were arranging the apartment, we had a rule that in each room, one person had the deciding vote. And for example, in the bathroom, it was Lukasz's vote, and
The studio was
yours. I had it in the bedroom and in the living room. The hallway was kind of neutral ground, and anyone could say veto if someone came up with something. If I didn't like something, you could veto it. But
not like we had 10 vetoes, but we set that sublimity to 2 vetoes, so it wouldn't go on forever. It's not like in a typical home where the woman is always right and always decides. We really always made decisions together. A lot of things we had actually chosen much earlier, before the renovation, before moving into the apartment. So we think that made everything go a bit faster automatically during the renovation and design stage.
Initially, the apartment was completely black, as shown by our kitchen. Now we have a lot more color and a lot more elements as time has passed. Our passions are now much more visible, unlike before when everything was very minimalistic.
Yes, all around the apartment there are various little trinkets hidden and tucked away, which characterize us in some way.
We start as usual at the entrance, and right here we have a shoe cabinet, but it's not for shoes. Inside there are other things, like dog balls, for example. So where are the shoes hidden then? They have a whole wardrobe set aside. Here is Lukasz's section, and here is Karolina's. There is a lot of storage space in the hallway, and this shoe cabinet is shallower. It's 40 cm deep, while on this side there are full depth wardrobes, 60 cm deep. The first one is for jackets and handbags, and below there's even a laundry basket for things that won't fit in the bathroom. As you can see, there's plenty of space up here, and when guests come over, their clothes go on the hooks that have been hung on the side of the wardrobe. Here we have another wardrobe, and this corner one serves as a pantry or storage for items from different categories. Although the wooden knobs on the wardrobes are very simple in shape, Lego figures have been attached to them, and thanks to that, the whole hallway looks more interesting, even though it's really just a small detail. But it's the details that influence how we perceive a given room. Notice that the utility boxes have been painted the same color and with the same paint as the walls, which makes them blend in nicely. Next to them we have doors, and these are simple raw wooden doors that you can often buy at really good prices. Here they have been stained, which gives them a color that matches the interior, and they've also been protected with oil. Such raw wooden doors are a really great choice because they offer a lot of possibilities. You can refine them in various ways later, paint them or stain them. There are really a lot of options, and they are available at really good prices. And it's wood, so in the future, if needed, you can also restore and modify it. So if you're considering doors, take this option into account. And since we're already talking about doors, you're probably also curious where they lead. These here lead to the bathroom, the ones behind me to the bedroom, and on the other side of the closet we have a passage to the living room with the kitchen. There's no door here, and these doors lead to the studio. The living room is connected to the kitchen, which has recently sparked a lot of controversy in the comments. And notice that the lounge area is in light colors, while the kitchen area is dark. We have black cabinets, and instead of tiles on the wall between them, old 19th century brick was used, which nicely refers to the tenement houses that dominate this part of the city. Our interiors look their best when we pay attention to various details and the choice of finishing materials. Have you ever wondered how to take care of your privacy on the internet? In today's world, our personal data is collected by various companies, even if we're not aware of it. And that's where Incogni comes in to help. Incogni is a tool that helps remove your personal data from hundreds of databases on the internet. Everything is done very simply. Just log into the platform, and Incogni will handle everything else. Thanks to this, you have more control over what happens to your information. You could theoretically do this yourself. You can try to remove your data from databases, write emails to companies, but let's be honest. Hardly anyone has time for that, and even fewer people actually do it. I definitely don't. I can't even keep my email inbox organized, let alone do some extra online investigation like that. The day would need to be 3 times longer. That's why, instead of spending hours on this, you just need to create an account, and the Incogni team will take care of the rest. On our behalf, they contact over 230 companies, the so-called data brokers, and request the removal of our data automatically. Additionally, if our data appears somewhere again, Incogni takes further action to remove it. That's why this tool works on a subscription model. It's like hiring a personal privacy assistant. And among the available packages, there's one that will help take care of the privacy of other members of our family as well. Because even if you feel that you are careful enough online, it's worth asking yourself if you have the same confidence when it comes to your loved ones, like your children, parents, or grandparents. If you want to check out Incogni, do it now using my code wnetrzazewnetrzaofficial. Thanks to it, you can get a discount. The annual plan is 60% off. Remember that Incogni offers a full money-back guarantee within the first 30 days if you're not satisfied, so you can try it risk-free and then decide if it's really the right product for you. The link's in the video description. Let's get back to discussing the kitchen, and here you can see how the cabinetry has been arranged. Starting at the refrigerator, there's a narrow pull-out pantry, a bin drawer under the sink, and then the dishwasher. Having the dishwasher near the sink is very convenient. Next, we have a corner cabinet, an oven with a drawer underneath, and here are 4 drawers, one of which is very deep. At the end, there's a peninsula with open shelves. Let's pause for a moment at the corner cabinet. You can see it has 2 pull-out shelves. Larger dishes are stored on the bottom, while the top holds a lot of smaller, lighter food items, because as you can see, these shelves aren't very sturdy. But light things can definitely go here, you can pull them out, and everything is easily accessible. However, the question arises whether storing such small items on a shelf like this is really optimal. And lately there's been more and more talk about the idea that if you actually put drawers instead of a corner cabinet, leaving the corner completely unused, it might turn out that surprisingly, even though the corner is empty, you can actually fit more things, and it will be more convenient. How is that possible? It depends a lot on what we want to store. If we're talking about big pots, large pans, those kinds of dishes with protruding handles that take up a lot of space, then actually those large shelves in a corner cabinet are fine and, in my opinion, work optimally. However, if we want to store smaller items, drawers can definitely be more convenient. And there can be a lot more drawers than just 2. When we have 4 levels or even 5 or 6, access to individual items will definitely be better and you'll be able to fit more of them in there. What's more, drawers actually fill the corners well and make use of a single cabinet. Maybe not perfectly, but definitely more precisely than a pull-out shelf in a corner cabinet. So when you add all this up and consider what you want to store, the answer to what to choose isn't so obvious, and it might turn out that leaving the corner empty will actually be more beneficial for us. Not obvious? And yet, so keep that in mind, it's worth considering, and now look up, because the upper corner cabinet is also interesting. Inside there are rotating shelves, See, we have two fronts here. I can reach both, and when I turn the shelf, I can easily access the things that are in the back. These black kitchen fronts are a very solid collection, which is made of wood. And people say that wood ages well, that it's easy to restore, and that overall it's a timeless, solid material. And that's all true. However, keep in mind that if we have fronts painted black and we get some dents or chips, they will be in the color of the wood. So as long as the front is also wooden, you really can't see any potential damage. But if the front is already painted black, unfortunately it stands out a bit. And here by the handles, some small chips have appeared. Of course, you can do something about the wood in the future, but let's be honest, it's not something completely simple that you can just fix right away. In the kitchen above the countertop, there's only one double socket, and it might seem like that's not enough, but that's not the case. It works just fine here, especially since the coffee maker and kettle are on the stove, so there's no need to plug them in. What can be a bit problematic though is the placement of that socket, which is in the corner. The upside is that it's easy to hide, but on the other hand, it's much farther away and inconvenient to reach. There are household appliances on the open shelves, but you can't see them at all because they've been hidden in wooden boxes, which makes the whole island look much more aesthetically pleasing. In the living room, the main feature is the light-colored sofa, above which there is a gallery of photos and illustrations. But it hasn't always been this way because over the years apartments go through changes. There used to be painted patterns on this wall, and instead of the sofa there was a large corner couch that stood on the other side and partially blocked the window. First, a little less light came into the room, but second, because it blocked the view of the balcony, it limited the space and made the room feel smaller.
In a perfect world, if the dogs didn't make a mess, we would have a beautiful wool rug.
Light, light.
But we don't have one because you can't wash it in the washing machine.
Yes, and
Not clean it quickly.
one rainy day the dogs came in and ruined the whole carpet. We have a custom couch with easily removable covers.
And wash them.
A dryer. It only took one day to be ready again, so we had to compromise and didn't have much control over it.
Directly across from the sofa, instead of a television, there's a little cabinet with plants, and it's an old cabinet that has been transformed. It has already had a few versions, but now it's blue, and you can see that it has two knobs each. Why? They used to be handles, but they were a bit broken and had to be replaced, but it wasn't so easy to find new handles with the same spacing. That's why in the end this solution was chosen. In my opinion, it's practical and definitely looks very interesting. In the corner of the room, various collections and interests have been displayed in the showcase. At the bottom, we have vinyl records, and at the top, there are collections of donkeys. Meanwhile, behind the showcase, there's a curtain that hides the radiator. The balcony is on the south side, on a high floor. In addition, there aren't any trees directly nearby that could cast a shadow. That's why it's very hot here in the summer. There's a lot of sun, it's warm, and unfortunately the plants have trouble surviving. That's why in the end, most of them were replaced with artificial ones. And in addition, there are a lot of lanterns, lights, rugs and cushions here, which makes it very cozy. And even though today is rainy and cloudy, I can imagine that on a warm summer day, this could be a wonderful place to relax. Behind the living room wall, there's a studio, which is actually a multifunctional room, because it's not only for work and pursuing hobbies, but also for relaxing and for guests. This room easily changes its functions. Look, the desk has two folding tops, so it can be a very large desk, or it can take up very little space. There's a sofa, a futon, which can become a bed. So when we fold up the desk and unfold the sofa, suddenly the space here becomes completely different. And the versatility of this room is fantastic. So shortly after moving in here, this room was very empty because you know how it is at the beginning. First, you organize the kitchen, the bathroom, a place to sleep, and these extra rooms really only get filled with life over time. And over time, more furniture started to appear here as well. More wardrobes showed up gradually. Here we have a shelf with doors, here a beautiful pink display cabinet where you can see how nicely different collections are showcased. We have beautiful shoes here, building block sets, and various figurines. Nowadays, when we think about storage space, we often imagine closets with some cool organizers or some kind of storage compartments. But actually, there are also great storage spaces that aren't so obvious. Like, for example, behind the sofa or behind a curtain. In the past, when people lived in smaller spaces, these ways of hiding things were obvious. And today, I feel like we often don't even think about it, but these are actually really convenient tricks, because when something is behind a curtain, you can't see it at all, but it's definitely within reach. You would never guess what large items are hidden under the window here, and it wouldn't be so easy to fit them into a closet. I use a container under my bed because it's large and those hard to store things fit there nicely, but of course not everyone has that kind of space. So remember that sometimes you need to use your imagination a bit and turn to our grandmother's methods. Life is constant change, and our interiors change too, and this little corner is a great example of that. There used to be a rocking chair hanging from a hook on the ceiling here, but now there's a plant hanging from that hook. The painting we have here on the wall used to hang in my grandma's house. The idea for this wall was for it to have a raw character, so decorative concrete was planned. However, it turned out that you can achieve a similar effect using styrofoam adhesive. Seriously. And more importantly, using the adhesive was over 10 times cheaper. Speaking of costs, let me tell you how much finishing this apartment cost in 2020. The total amount came to over 70,000, but remember, that's not the result we see now. We're only talking about the costs of getting the apartment ready to move in, and then over the years more things were added, so in the end that amount is probably 10 to 20% higher. And what does it include? The key amounts are labor, 15,000, flooring, engineered wood in 2 rooms and tiles in the others, totaling 5,300. Furniture and appliances, meaning the bathroom cabinet with sink, wardrobes both in the hallway and the bedroom, and the entire kitchen with almost all appliances except the fridge, totaling 26,000. In the bedroom there is a wooden bed that is 1.60 meters wide, and the outlets on both sides were made and adjusted specifically for that size, so they are accessible and the bed doesn't block them. The thing is, the headboard I chose back then turned out to be wider than the bed, and there was a collision. So as you can see, even if we take different measurements into account, it's very easy to overlook something and end up with a collision like that. So it just happens. Fortunately, most of the equipment can be replaced, and in this case there were bigger changes because the wall changed its color. And because of that, the headboard was made lighter, and the current one no longer collides with the sockets in any way. On this side of the room there's a large wardrobe with sliding doors, which have the advantage that, despite the narrow passage, there's no problem opening the front. But on the other hand, when one person is using their section, the other definitely can't use theirs at the same time. Notice how the interior has been organized. There are drawers here with transparent glass fronts, and here there are basket drawers. This is because the initial layout of the closet inside was a bit different, but over time the needs changed and it was updated a little. Unfortunately, drawers in this color were no longer available in the store, so we had to find another solution. But unfortunately, the shelf had to be white. This is the inside of the closet, so it doesn't matter that much. But in a way, it's a shame that even these modular furniture pieces have limited collections and make it so we can't easily adapt our furniture to our changing needs. It would definitely be nicer if everything was available all the time, but unfortunately it's not that simple. The closet is modular, not custom made, so there's a bit of a niche left to be used, and in the end a wooden shelf was placed here sideways because it needed to be deeper rather than wider. As you know, normally shelves are wider than they are deep, so placing it the other way around solved the problem. And what's more, take a look at how things are arranged here. The frames at the front hide the items placed deeper inside, making the space look more organized. By the bed, there are old nightstands that have been renovated, and here on the side there's a wooden shelf. But unlike the wardrobe, it's not left in its natural wood color. It's painted the same as the walls, which helps it blend nicely into the space. Because the window is large and almost reaches the floor, the radiator couldn't be placed underneath it, but instead had to be positioned next to it. Sometimes you can choose a tall, vertical radiator that doesn't take up much wall space. But here there's a long, horizontal one that really dominates the decor of this space. That's why it was covered with a handmade macrame, hung here on a bamboo stick attached to a wooden frame. It looks really nice. Honestly, I've seen many different radiator covers, and this one really impressed me. The vanity is black, and as is commonly known, black countertops can be problematic because dust is more visible on them. Overall, it's manageable, but with a vanity, it's much more of an issue because every time you do your makeup, some powder falls, and powder is lighter than black, so it's very noticeable. It gets dirty easily and isn't that easy to clean. That's why, in the end, a new plywood countertop was installed, and now it's definitely more practical. The bathroom has white and wood-like tiles, which are considered rather subdued choices. But don't let that fool you, because on the ceiling we have something truly wild. It's a patterned wallpaper that definitely adds a unique character to this bathroom. The sink cabinet wasn't always this color. It was repainted, and as you can see, it fits right up against the wall on the side. I used to wonder if the drawers here without any panel would collide with the wall, but that's not a problem. The sink sticks out a little compared to the cabinet and creates the space we need to use the drawer comfortably. The washing machine and dryer are theoretically in the corner, so they're not very exposed, but because there's a sink with a mirror here, the side of the washing machine and dryer is reflected in the mirror, and it didn't look very presentable. That's why a cover was made here. Not a full enclosure for the washing machine and dryer, just one side on which leaves were drawn. Exactly the same pattern that's on the wallpaper on the ceiling. This side is attached at the bottom to the washing machine. At the top it's on these special elastic bands, and it holds up great and looks very nice. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.